Welcome and good day to you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast. I am your host, Rashida McFerrin, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin stats. And so, if you have been paying any attention to the markets over the last few weeks, we know that Bitcoin has been down to like what 54,000, I think, at the end of last week. And as of today, checking stats, it has recovered to a point of $64,000. And so, technically, if you invested last week and at least bought one Bitcoin or a half a Bitcoin, you would have technically made your money back in reference to a $10,000 gain or a $5,000 gain if you invested in half of a Bitcoin. Or even if you invested in smaller numbers, whatever investment that you just put in to it would have doubled between this week and last week. So today we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin stats, meaning like who owns Bitcoin. And so I like to start off with some basics. Everybody knows the basics of Bitcoin, right? Founded in 2008 from a white paper. We still don't technically know who the founder is. It's a mystery that everybody's trying to uncover, but it's become a mainstream investment option for a lot of people in this country and around the world. And so, that being said, today we're going to be talking about the stats. Like, I like to call the millennials us, the crypto generation, right? We're going to do things very differently from our parents, whether they were Gen X or baby boomers. And so let's start with the age ownership of who owns Bitcoin. So technically, excuse me, technically Gen Z, 18 to 24. Well, technically, Gen Z goes a little younger than that. My son is 16 and he was born in 2008. So he's Gen Z too. But we're talking older Gen Z. Approximately 25% of Bitcoin owners fall within that range, and they are considered the tech savvy individuals and the early adopters of crypto because they're younger. It's easy to put the impression on them that this is a good investment for the long term. And that's when you want to start investing when you're in your younger years. Ages 25 to 34, this age group represents the largest segment, around 35% of Bitcoin owners. And the demographic is technically technically looking to do a little something different from the traditional norm, which is invested in an alternative investment. 35 to 44 is about 20% of Bitcoin owners. And this age group, which is my age group, which is looking to balance out traditional investments with cryptocurrency. I'm going to admit in the last 4 to 6 years, I've been way more crypto heavy in my investments as the asset has stabilized. And not just Bitcoin, Web3 technology, cryptocurrencies, blockchain tech as a whole. I've been very heavy in my portfolio with those investments, especially when it comes to like trust funds that are set up, ETFs that have been set up. I don't know what the big deal was about us getting a Bitcoin ETF approved because they've been around for a minute. I just think the hype around it kind of got the best of everybody and it's like now mainstream. Anyway, the next gen we have is ages 45 to 54, which is about 10% of Bitcoin owners. This is going to be your Gen X owners. They're more traditional and like to invest in traditional things. And so they're not going to be as liberal to trying something new. And then 55 years plus the remaining 10% of Bitcoin owners, very slow to getting into cryptocurrency because they're just old school, like my mom and them. My mom is boomers, baby boomers. She wants to know about it, but when she's talking about investing in it, she's like, "I'm just gonna give you the money and let you do it." And I'm like, No, mama, that's the that's besides the point. I want you to learn how to invest it. That is what I teach in my course, Pennies to Profits. It's teaching how to evaluate the asset to a point that you make a solid decision on what you're investing in. And so the age group pretty much goes with the gen. So Generation Z born between 2000 and 2012, 30% owners. Millennials born between 1980 and 1999 are 40% owners of Bitcoin. Gen X born between 1965 and 1979, 20% of them are Bitcoin owners. And then the baby boomers from 1946 to 1964, less than 10%, as I just mentioned previously. In regards to gender, men own approximately 70% of Bitcoin, while women own 30%. And I'm going to say this as a woman in finance, it is my mission to make sure that more women know how to invest in investment markets. We tend to, I guess, traditionally, I guess, in our society, women tend to leave the investment decisions up to their husband, which is fine if they are married. But if you're a single woman, you have to rely upon your skills to be able to invest in stuff. So what is the alternative that you just don't invest in? You really can't afford not to invest in this new asset class, which could change the trajectory of your family's future. And so I want women to be more in control of their finances and owning the decisions that they're making with financial information because we can do it too. Period. Point blank and period. And so I want to see that number even out to like a 50-50 over the next 5 to 10 to 20 years. I want to see more women taking control of their investment finances and building a portfolio that they can manage themselves. I'm off my soapbox. So, in regards to the LGBTQIA community, 15% of them own Bitcoin. And in regards to educational level, that's going to be the next step. So high school, people who have completed high school or less, about 15% of them own Bitcoin and they are relying on intuitive understanding and peer influence, which is basically they hear about it from a friend. Their friend said, "Hey man, go invest in this. I'm telling you, it's gonna make you money." They don't do no checking. That's my country part of Tennessee coming out. They don't do no checking. They just figure out what it is they need to buy, go open the account they need to open, and then go buy it. In regards to some college, if you have some college under your belt, it is estimated that there is a 25% chance that you are owning Bitcoin because you are open to exploring the possibility of new opportunities. If you have a bachelor's degree, 35% of Bitcoin owners hold a bachelor's degree, showing a strong representation among educated individuals. And if you have postgraduate education, 25% of Bitcoin owners, and typically professionals and academics who understand the complexities of digital assets and the risk that comes with them, are likely to own this asset. Next, we're going to do the income level. So if you make under $50,000 a year, it is projected that 20% of Bitcoin is owned by this income level. If you range from $50,000 to $100,000, which is the first level of six figures, it is estimated that about 35% of this income level owns Bitcoin. If you're from 100 to 200K, 25% own Bitcoin. I found this to be interesting. If you're over $200,000, only 10% own Bitcoin. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess because again, I work in finance, I am used to seeing wealthier people make more of an investment in new risk assets because they're willing to take a risk because they have the money to make the risk. What's the word? They have excess cash flow to be able to invest in a newer asset, understanding that it comes with a lot of risk involved. That's what I was trying to say. And then millionaires, if you are a seven-figure owner, 7% own Bitcoin. And if you're a multimillionaire, only 3% own Bitcoin. Yeah, I feel like I need to do some additional research on the 200,000 to the eight-figure range, I feel like those stats are off a little. It doesn't make sense knowing what I know, having been specializing in this industry over the past few years, that those stats, whoever have the resources where I pull the data and the information from, they may not just have access to people who are high six-figure earners into seven figures, into eight figures. And so they probably guesstimated the best that they could. The next category is ownership by race. African Americans, 25% of African Americans own Bitcoin. Caucasian Americans, 55% own Bitcoins. Latin Americans, around 10%, and Asian Americans, around 10% own Bitcoin. Ownership of Bitcoin by political affiliation. Democrats own roughly 45%, Republicans own roughly 40%, and the remaining 15% are independent or other parties. And here is the last stat right here. This is Bitcoin ownership by state. And pretty much you can kind of guess which states are going to be more heavy depending on how you know that state already operates. So in first place, guess what we got? We got Cali coming in at 15%. Next, we got New York, which is the city of dreams, where at least it used to be, coming in at 10%. Texas, the Lone Star State, which is where I live, is coming in at 8%. Florida is coming in at 7%. And then the other 60% is just the mix of the rest of the 50 states throughout the country, because we don't have enough statistics from the data to be able to quote each individual state. That is it for today's episode. I just really wanted to come on and give you an idea of what type of person owns Bitcoin and or Web3 and or blockchain tech, cryptocurrency, and to see where you fall in the category. And if you're not falling in the category anywhere in between, I say that you need to do more research and figure out how to invest in that asset, period. And that is what my course teaches. You can head over to Rashida.ai, drop your email address in and get your freebie. And then I am hosting a 3-part training coming up in August. Get on the list so you can participate in the training, and maybe you can just get your foot in the door to get you started and going in the right direction. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it is helpful to you. As always, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can leave a review, and I will see you in the next financial episode. Bye for now.